Welcome to Laurie's Little Studio. I'm Laurie, and today I have this in front of me. It probably looks a little familiar if you have been watching my videos. These are the leftover panels from that Michael Miller panel that I used to make the table runner with. These are the remaining pieces, and this is the remaining backing fabric. And my plan is to take each one of these, cut out a piece of the backing fabric, and make 4 little pillows. The backing fabric here has been folded in half, like so. And I'm just going to see if I can cut 4, because I have 4 little, these are actually rectangles when you measure from this blue line. And I'm thinking I'm going to be sewing right along the edge where the gingham meets the darker blue line on each. I need to fix my exposure again. It's every day. It's just crazy. Let's see if that doesn't help. It's a relatively overcast day, and I think that's a little better. Yeah. Okay, so each of the 4 will have just the gingham showing like this. And if we measure from the ginghams this way and this way, they may actually be square. Okay. No, they're still slight rectangles. Okay, so let me see about getting these cut. And I'm thinking, because this will cut, when I cut this out, I'll have 2, so it would be for 2. And then I think I have to move, well, let's see, nope. So I'll actually have this much fabric left over for another project. Okay. This is lined up, and I think I'll just do it like this. And that way the remaining fabric will have the selvage edge. All right, I am going to pin it. Okay. See, I need a seam allowance, so I think I will just cut right along this line. So I have 4 small little pillows. I'm just going to stitch around, turn, stuff some polyfill, and then stitch them up. Okay. I have blue and white thread. My sewing machine has white thread in the needle and blue thread in the bobbin. I need to see how much. Yeah, I don't have enough. I'll go ahead and use what I've got here, but chances are pretty good I'm going to run out before I get these done. right. We'll start with this one. It says, "Oh, happy day." Okay. All right, and when I'm doing something like this, I need to mark. I'm going to use a friction ink pen. Friction ink is heat erasable. It's not 100%. They do have to use a gel ink to carry the heat erase ink, and if you erase it with heat, it can come back if it gets cold. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's see, I think I'll do down at the bottom. And I like to just kind of measure my hand. So I'll just make a mark or not. I think I need another one. Should probably order some refills. There we go. That way I know I can get my hand through there. And I'll start on this one right here. And as I said, I'm going to stitch. I can see through the fabric. See if you can. Yeah, you can see that dark blue line. I'm going to stitch with my needle just along that dark blue line. All right. Okay, so I kind of fell off the stitching where I wanted it to stay on this side of the blue line, just a little tiny bit right here. So I am going to go back and fix that. So the next step obviously will be to trim all these seam allowances down and the corners. So I think what I'll do is clip these corners, and that's what it should look like. I know that the lighting is really bad. I'm hoping that you can see that I did not clip my stitching right here. Okay, and then when I come up to the line where I started stitching, I'm just going to snip in with my scissors like so. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Okay, and now I can turn it . I think they're going to be so cute. Okay, and then of course that just naturally wants to fold in. Just like so. And after I get this pressed and then the polyfill popped in here, I always try to make sure that I get a good amount of polyfill in the four corners, and then I fill the rest of it. And that way I don't have corners that are kind of, you know, floppy around the edges like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch up the rest, get them turned, pressed, and then we're going to finish up with this little project. I realized I did not mention why I mark where my little opening is going to be. Oftentimes when I start a project like this and I have more than one, or I have a long way to go sewing, by the time I get to the opening that I was going to leave, I've totally forgotten about it, and I'll just stitch right over the top of that. Some very experienced seamstresses, makers, crafters will just put a pin in both of those spots. I have a very bad history with pins. They love to stab me. So rather than risk another sewing room injury, I just decided that I would mark. You can use, if you want to mark, you can use anything that won't show through. So if you have kind of a heavy fabric, you can mark it with anything, even a Sharpie, just so that once it's marked, you can't see it on the other side. You can use chalk, pencil, friction ink, or you can put clips. If you have little wonder clips, you can put one on each side. You can put pins in. All the little things that help you remember that you need to leave an opening are perfectly fine. Okay, so this is the last one, and I wanted to show you guys another way that I trim the outer edges on a project like this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one stitched, and then we'll trim it out a different way instead of using scissors. And I think I might have enough bobbin thread. We'll find out. Oh, I've done this same thing all 3 times before. I've had to go back and do this. Okay, make sure I'm on that line. Yep. Yep. All right, so now Bama has decided to nap in here today, which I find especially endearing. I'm going to use my rotary cutter. Okay, so rotary cutter, where would you be? Oh, here you are. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just take my rotary blade and cut off really carefully these little corners without cutting through the threads, obviously. I don't know why we always say that, but we do. Okay, so those have been cut off. And the reason we do that, if you're new to sewing, this helps that corner turn out a little bit neater than if it had all that excess seam allowance kind of gunking up in there. So that's why we clip those corners like that. All right, then I'm just going to take my ruler and kind of measure along an equal amount using my stitching as my guide. Obviously, I'm not going to cut my stitching. I'm going to cut just slightly beyond it. Like so. I'll do this side. And I'm just looking for my stitching to be under my ruler. So I can see my stitching line. I don't know that even if I zoom in, if you'll be able to. We'll see. It's right in there. Maybe. Maybe you can. Okay, so I've cut 3 sides. The side I have not cut is the side where the opening is. Oops. Back you up a little bit. So this is the opening right here. And I want to kind of curve this out. So I am going to use my blade without my ruler. I'm just going to cut these threads first. Okay. Now what I want to do effectively looks like this. This is where my stitching ends, right here, and I'm going to cut like this. So I've left this little bit of fabric here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but in reverse. I'm going to just cut, keeping this hand out of the way. Okay. So you can see, this is what I call a gate right here. The reason I do that is because when I turn this inside out or right side out, that little bit of fabric forces this to turn in and stay in. I haven't stitched it yet on this one. So now we're going to go ahead and flip this. And another little helpful tip, with these corners, when they're cut squared off like this, if you take your fingernail, even if it's a shorter fingernail, and just push it over on itself and then turn it, you can often get that to really push out. Now, if you have something like a chopstick, you can use that. Just be really careful because you might poke a hole. The better choice is a point turner that is buried in here. So another option, and you may have seen this on other YouTube channels, if you have one that's kind of not cooperating, just take one of your pins like this and just kind of reach in and pull that fabric using your pin. This works particularly well if you're making doll clothes, like Barbie doll clothes, that size, you know, 11.5-inch doll, and you have a corner that you just cannot get to, you know, poke out. I like to use these pins if I have to use a pin. I'm not particularly fond of the idea because, as I mentioned before, I end up getting stabbed. So my other option is to use kind of a dull pencil and just there, just poke it out like that. Okay, we'll go all the way around. And then as you can see, my little gate has forced this to close as neat as a pin. And we're going to go just simply press them flat. I won't really have an opportunity to press them again once they've got, you know, to this degree, once they've got fiber fill in them. That generally kind of makes it a little bit less conducive to ironing. So I'm going to go press all 4. How fun is this? I just think they're adorable. Okay, I'll go press and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we have our little tiny pillows ready to be finished up. Let's get this out of the way. And I have a fairly full bag of just your basic polyfill Crafter's Choice, dry polyester packing fiber fill, ideal for doll making. It doesn't have to be this type, honestly. I mean, you could even, you know, use something else if you wanted to. I just happen to have this, and that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to make 4 little blobs like that, and I'm going to put this one into this corner. This one will go into that corner, and this in the bottom left, this in the bottom right. Now the reason that I put them all in there at once is because I don't want to stress out this opening by going in and out and back in there and over. So I just try to minimize all of that. And all I'm doing is pushing what I put in here into these little corners just to fill them out. And then if you wanted to, not on these, I wouldn't, but if you have a small little tiny pillow and you want to put a button in the middle, that can sometimes really add a cute little extra. You would do that once you're finished with all of the stuffing and the stitching of the opening. Alright, so let's take this nice large needle. I think my problem is my needle is a little bit bigger than it should be. It's really usually a very small needle, just slips right into that fold, and this needle is a little bigger than I normally use, but it just happened to be handy. I could tie off and, you know, try to find a smaller needle. I may have to because it's a little aggravating. Okay, so let me tie off. I'm gonna see what this one feels like in this fabric. Oh yeah, much better. Okay. All right, I'm gonna get resituated here, and I will come back. I'm not gonna remove these, I'm just gonna tie off. That is why the size of your needle is important. All right, guys, so I've rethreaded and I've got this smaller needle, and of course I do need to reattach. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm slipping in between the folded fabric and the outer fabric. I'm going to just bury my knot right there and then take a stitch and another stitch back toward where I dropped off stitching. Right there. All right. And I love the way this needle is working with the fabric. It's a lot less, well, it's just not as thick, so it's easy to use it. Alrighty, so I am going to just go ahead. I'll probably do a time lapse of me stitching because it is now that time of day when I talk to my sister on the phone. So I'll just sit and stitch as I usually do. Why is this knotting? Isn't that funny how you think you've got things sorted out? Okay. And then you don't really. And I'm just gonna distribute the fluffiness. There's the seam. So this is the wire basket, two-tiered wire basket that I bought at Pier 1 in Everett, Washington before it closed its doors 2 years ago. It was $35, and I'm not going to let it just sit here and, you know, not serve a purpose. So I usually have it full of little things that I've made, like these little birds that I made out of wool, this little heart pillow that I made for Valentine's Day, I don't know, a couple years ago. Oops, sorry. Here's the other little bird. So now the garden is my happy place. Let your dreams come true or blossom. Oh, happy day. I'm just going to fill it up with these fun little things. And also, here's the pink one. Love is like a flower. There are some spots in here that I feel like will need some little extra, extra things. I know this is at the end of the video, but I wanted to point out that you can also do just wrong sides together, cut it out with your pinking shears, stitch around, leave an opening, put your filling in, and your filling can be lavender seeds. It can be something heavy like ground up walnut shells or pecan shells. You can use it as a weight. You could also spray this after it's made. Spray it with Febreze and put it, put a little handle on it and hang it up in your laundry room or in your closet or in your linen closet. If you're going to have guests and you've got a guest bedroom that is a little stuffy from not being used, you could just put a few of these in one of these kinds of things or a basket, spray it with Febreze, and la la la, it smells good. I love having these little things around. I think they're fun, they're quick, they're easy to make, and you can sit and do them by hand, you can do them on your sewing machine, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to overfill this one. Like I said earlier, you could put a dab of essential oil. You could also give it a spritz with your favorite cologne or perfume and hang it up in your closet, stick it in a shoe. You know what, put these, they're very flexible, they're soft, they're easy to manipulate. Put them in your coat pocket. Everything can be freshened up with just a little fabric heart. And then I'm just stitching on my sewing machine. I'm not overfilling. And it's done. Put them in your car. Whatever you think would be a good spot. So I'm going to go put this in the living room where I wanted to display these little guys, and I'll pop a picture up at the very end, and again, I'll see you in the next video. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm so happy to have some new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. If you hit the little bell, it will let you know when I have a new video. Thank you again, and I will see you the next time. Bye.